Hello and welcome to Pacific Horse Players right here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering special horizontal bets for this year's Breeders' Cup. I am your host, Noah Meagher, obviously joined by my wonderful friend and co-host, Ryan Anderson. We're going to be going through 2 tickets for you guys today. At least not the only 2 tickets you can play, but ones that we wanted to pick. Got a little bit of turf, got a little bit of dirt, and as many Breeders' Cup races as we wanted to cover and get that covered for you guys here today. We are filming this show on Wednesday afternoon. Is about 5 o'clock on the East Coast and 2 o'clock Pacific. So if you're obviously you'll be watching this as a replay, but make sure you hit the notification bell, subscribe button, like button, all that good stuff. Got a lot of good stuff going. We had our reactions to the draw last night. Ryan and I were both a part of that, and that was an awesome show. Had a great showing there, we have a lot of good stuff to continue to be put out. So make sure you go check that out, because we do have some more live shows and some recorded shows as well. But we'll throw it to you, Ryan. Obviously, we've got some excitement over the past couple of weeks, and that's building up as we are recording this on Wednesday, and gonna be exciting.
It is. We're posting this on Wednesday. It is Tuesday today. So
sorry, it's Tuesday.
It is.
It just causes you to lose.
Please don't scare me with it's Wednesday already. That would make me late on so many things. So, no, I'm excited to get out to Del Mar. I'm going up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow being Wednesday, going to go watch the gallops, watch the workouts, the last bit of kind of fine tuning. The O'Brien Army and the Appleby crew were out there this morning, getting their first kind of feel of the track. So I'm looking forward to getting up there tomorrow, watching them work. And yeah, just getting back to Del Mar. We got some great races to talk about. We're going turf on Friday. We're going dirt on Saturday. Got some fun picks in there. Got some great horses to talk about, and I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm very ready too. But yeah, again, Ryan said it. I said it wrong. We're recording this on Tuesday, and the 2 tickets we'll be going over are the Turf Pick 3, which is a $3 minimum on Friday, and the 50-cent All Dirt Pick 4. So we got 7 races for you guys. Before we do that, let's roll quickly through the administrative stuff. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Power Picks tip sheet, of course. We've gotten more and more people to sign up. I believe the deadline is Thursday, sometime in the morning. I don't exactly know what the time is, but if you check out our other shows, you can make sure you get that. And
Wednesday at noon Eastern.
Wednesday noon Eastern. All right, thank you. That's why I have a co-host. And then obviously you can sign up for the regular Power Picks, 2 full tracks for $15.99 every Saturday. I believe for the people that are already subscribers, you can get the Breeders' Cup Power Picks right here for $30. If you're not a current subscriber, you can get it for $35. Obviously, both are very cheap, and you can go get both of those at the HHH at the website hhhracingpodcast.com. Ryan, let's go ahead and get into it. The first race we're going to be talking about, the first race of the first sequence, is the $3 Pick 3 on Friday. As I go ahead and share my screen with the Equibase entries. Full field of 12. Moneyline favorite is the 8, Akoro Sieg. I'll go ahead and throw our picks up, down on the bottom. We are both going with him. I'm going 8-7-2. Ryan, you're going 8-10-2. Akoro Sieg, lots of hype over from Japan.
Absolutely. So, real quick to mention on this one, Out on Bail was just announced as a scratch maybe 20 minutes ago. That's the horse drawn to the rail. Not a major factor in terms of, pace or setup, or really just, I didn't think that horse had much of a shot. But that does give Asterius, the number 2 horse, the rail in there, ridden by James Doyle, trained by Archie Watson. So that is something to note if that's a horse that you had. And as you can see, I picked that horse 3rd, as did you, Noah. So maybe that changes things a little bit here, but I still think Asterius has some talent. But Akoro Sieg, as you also picked this horse on top, I mean, this horse is the real deal, right? You run the fastest 6 furlong time ever in Japan. You're at 107-1. I mean, that's blazing for a 2-year-old. It's blazing for anybody, but for the 2-year-old record to be that, we've seen Japan's success coming over here. And something tells me the cut back to the 5 furlongs is going to be no issue at all. This horse is uber talented, and it just seems like a standout among these, at least in terms of raw ability and what this horse has produced so far.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you in the sense of the 5 furlongs. I think he's obviously got one way to go, so the 5 furlongs is going to work in his favor. Obviously, he's got a lot of speed. If you guys notice, I've got this whole sheet of homework, quote unquote homework I've done. Not for school, definitely not. But yeah, he's obviously got lots of speed. He's going to need a clean break, which is kind of moto obvious. If he is on lead, he's going to be tough to catch. The two things that do work in his favor: number one, we mentioned the 5 furlongs, and number two, he has gone both left-handed and right-handed, which some of these shippers have only gone straight. Which obviously with the 5 furlong configuration, it's going to be tough. And speaking of configurations, if you haven't checked out our track profile show, make sure you go and do that. But yeah, I think he's going to be a very likely winner. I expect him to be 5-2, 3-1 in here. Probably going to go off as your favorite and someone that could definitely be dangerous. Ryan, you got the 10 in second. Governor Sam for Paco and George Weaver. Probably one of the more likely U.S. entrants. 12-1 on the line.
Yeah, I mean, look, the time form figures line up pretty well with this horse. Paco in a turf sprint's always dangerous. It's tough. It's tough to kind of judge these 5 furlong races. I know the 10 post is pretty out wide. However, this horse should be, I don't know that speed of speed necessarily, but I mean, went sub 21 at Keeneland, so that is blazing, and it's a similar type of firm turf course. Noah, you're out in Kentucky. You guys didn't get much rain at all, and we definitely haven't had any rain out here. So those turf courses are both going to be firm. Governor Sam's going to go straight to the lead. And, these 2-year-olds, the 5 furlongs, it can kind of be tough to catch because a lot of them haven't, developed that lethal turn of foot that some of them get at like 3 or 4. And they're just kind of getting into that. And the 5 furlongs, it comes up quick. The stretch run at Del Mar is, deceptively short for some of these runners. So I think if Paco can either cross and clear or just get to the 2-path and sit off the hip of a horse inside that sends harder than he does, I think Governor Sam's got a real shot to pounce on the lead at the quarter pole, and maybe he doesn't get caught. Maybe he just has enough in the tank to kind of keep rolling. That race last time out was super impressive to watch. I know the Bayer's a little light, but again, the time form kind of matches up. So I'll split the difference, and that gives this horse a shot, especially at a nice 12-1.
Yeah, certainly. I believe I was there that day at Keeneland when they ran the Indian Summer. Yeah, he went sub 21, as you said. They did have a pretty strong wind at their back, which you can kind of see those fast times, especially with those 5.5 races on the turf, obviously at Keeneland down the street. But he's also got the fact that in his third career start, he did sit off a little bit. So, maybe if he doesn't get the lead, he's not going to be impossible. But again, the break is going to be important. I think he is, like I said, one of the more likely U.S. For me, just looking in other directions, I ended up going with the 7 Whistle Jacket in second. Aiden O'Brien's got 2 entrants in here. He's got Whistle Jacket, and then he's got Ides of March. I prefer Whistle Jacket. According to my notes and according to the Aiden interview, he wasn't ridden forward enough last time. He didn't break great, and I thought it was a bit of a passive ride by Ryan Moore. Lost a Shadow of Light last time and came back to win a Group 1 at 7 furlongs. So I just think he's going to be ridden differently this time. It'll be interesting to see how he does with the 5. He's got a win in a 4th over there, but the rest of his races have been at 6. I just think he'll break better and be a little more prominent. We'll go into the 2 who we both have in third. That's Asterius for Archie Watson and James Doyle, I believe. Asterius, Big Mojo, and Magnum Force all coming out of that Flying Childers over at Doncaster. Asterius was able to get the job done that day. You got him in third. Let us know why.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in the running lines, I mentioned Out on Bail is scratched, and you can see in the running lines made virtually all for the last 2 prominent, second time out in second in his third career start. So this horse likes to be forward, and you'd have to imagine now drawing the rail with Out on Bail scratched from this race. That makes me think this horse is going to send. So this is a horse to look for up front. And again, the 5 furlongs goes quick. You want to save ground, so Asterius certainly has that going for him. So, I mean, that's enough for me, just being forward, having good position going into the turn, whether that's on the lead or whether, Governor Sam, blanking on the name, Governor Sam or another horse crosses and clears. Asterius is just going to sit that second trip. We've seen that work time and again at Del Mar. Going back to the 2017 Breeders' Cup, had Joel Rosario and Peter Miller on I forget the name of a horse, but something like 32-1. It was the 4-horse. Saved ground the entire way around, tipped out, and pounced on everybody. Saving ground is the most important thing. Asterius is going to be able to do that, and I think that's enough for me to want to keep this horse, in the top 3 and definitely on my ticket.
Yeah, certainly. I think, even though he is kind of a speed type, I think there is some versatility there. And the thing about him is he's probably one of the better breakers in here. You can see kind of through his comments, prominent towards near side in second, made virtually all. So the break with him is not necessarily a concern, and he should sit a pretty good trip. He's a little goofy. When I watch his replays, he tends to kind of go back and forth between lead changes. It might not matter just because the 5 furlongs is so short and it's just kind of one run. But like you said, if he does get on the front end and he battles with another horse, he'll definitely fight you for it. And he's got a little bit of heart, which you don't see in a ton of 2-year-olds. And I do think he's interesting. Obviously, you do too. So we'll go ahead and move on to the second leg. But for the turf sprint, I got 8-7-2, and Ryan is going 8-10-2. Let me go ahead and switch this over. Next race we'll be talking about is the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Again, that is the second leg of the $3 Turf Pick 3 on Friday. Let me go ahead and switch it over on Equibase. There we go. Then I'll share it to the screen. There's a field. Morning line favorite for the Juvenile Fillies Turf is going to be down to the inside Lake Victoria, a horse that we have talked about a lot here on the podcast. Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, 8-5 morning line. Second choice, which was a little surprising to me, especially with the morning line thought process, Hector Barrios and Phil D'Amato, a horse that you, Ryan, have been a fan of, but not so much in this race. I'm going 1-11-6. Ryan, you're going 1-4-7. You are going with the favorite Lake Victoria, who looks to be a very talented filly, a very talented filly, and honestly could be much lower than 8-5 when they break from the gate.
This horse is 8-5. I'm putting irresponsible money on this horse. There's no shot we get 8-5. Lake Victoria, I get the rail isn't maybe ideal. Maybe, you wanted the 2 or the 3, but I don't care. We've seen Ryan Moore pull off master classes on the turf time and again. He's not scared of the rail. I have no reason to, be scared of him. This is by far the best horse in the race. I don't think it's really close. Definitely the best Euro. I think second, I am a big fan of thought process. I couldn't justify the 5-2 on the morning line. I think you're going to get a lot higher than that. Maybe in the 4-1, 5-1 range when it's all said and done, because I think Euros just by default kind of take money, and there's some longer prices, but we don't need to get into all that. More than anything, Lake Victoria just seems like a standout, right? I mean, 2-time grade 1 winner, undefeated in 4 starts, comes over and is just improving race by race by what looks like leaps and bounds. Should have no trouble getting the mile. And I mean, I'm excited to watch this horse run.
Yeah. And everything I've heard from Aidan O'Brien, he can't speak enough praises about this 2-year-old filly. In the interview, he called her unique, which I think in foreign language basically means that she's special. So if that's the only thing that you take from the interview, I think that's a little bit of an indicator there. But in terms of her races, she obviously is 4 for 4. She's undefeated. She breaks very alertly. She's prominent early. She's a very push button type, and she's got a really nice turn of foot. The rail does not concern me at all. She's going to save every inch of ground. And honestly, she might just be the best horse in the field. So I don't know if ground's really going to matter. Yeah. Just as long as Ryan Moore doesn't get himself in trouble. Obviously, he did a great job of riding last year at Santa Anita. One of the more likely winners on the weekend.
Definitely. I will say this. That is the only part that gives me some concern, is knowing that Ryan Moore is not scared of sticking to the rail and taking those chances. That's maybe the only chance that, he has to maybe get beat is if the rail doesn't open up, which with 2-year-olds, you have to imagine it's going to, right? They don't corner the best. They typically drift out. And as Matthew DeSantis said on my show yesterday, no North American jockey has ever stuck to the rail in the history of racing here. So that certainly gives me enough confidence to use him. But I think this horse is just much the best.
Yeah, let's go to your 4 Scythian for Alvarado and Mott. 2 for 2 on the turf, and got a nice solid win at 12-1 last time in the Miss Grill over at Aqueduct.
Yeah, definitely. Bill Mott is obviously an extremely capable trainer and certainly on turf. This horse is improving race to race. And I honestly going into this race when I saw the field, my first thought was like, okay, Lake Victoria on top and thought process in second. But the more I watch the replays of Scythian, the turn of foot's really nice. Being able to sit those nice tactical trips, which is important in turf races at Del Mar, drawing the 4-hole, which is important because she's going to be able to save a lot of ground going into the turn. She closed into a pretty slow pace 2-back. She wasn't super far off of it, but definitely still got up. And I believe second place in that race, Real Savvy, if I remember the name correctly, was the horse on the lead the entire way around. But either way, last time out at Backwaduct in the Miss Grillo, she looked uber impressive. Tis the Law is my personal favorite horse that I've gotten to see run. But all that aside, a New York bred comes over here in good shape and good order, 4th career race, and has improved race over race. So I like this horse underneath at what I think is going to be a fair price, probably around that 12-1.
Yeah, I think you should get every bit of 12-1. We're thinking similarly because I've got the 11 and 6 and second and third. I don't want a short price underneath her. If I want to try to get value out of this race, I know we're covering this from a horizontal standpoint, but if you're playing this race vertically, you want to try to get some kind of price underneath Lake Victoria if you really think she's that good, as you and I both do. I've got the 11 Fiery Lucy, who I was very surprised by this 30-1. I guess it doesn't hurt the fact that she's run 6 times and she's run second 4 of those 6 times. I thought last time in the Weld Park, she broke fine. She hesitated a bit and she kind of had to wait for room. Couldn't quite get to Heaven's Gate, as you see last time, and is running in this race today. But I think she's going to relish the mile. I'm interested to see how she does take to the firm turf, just because she hasn't been on it. She's been over soft, good, yielding, you name it. But one I think is certainly interesting. And 30-1 was very surprising to me. And then I've got the 6th and 3rd. We'll go to Thought Process, who obviously I hinted you've been a big fan of. She's done nothing wrong since going to the turf, and she just seems to be getting better and better.
I mean, yeah, her buyers are nuts for this 2-year-old group. As far as the U.S. Ones go, mid 80s the past 2. Going the mile, closing really strong. That last race in the Surfer Girl, did she beat a whole lot? No, but she beat them exactly how you want to see, like a 1-9 shot, or I guess she was 1-5 in that sense, a 1-5 shot win. It was easy. It was a paid workout. She just ran around the track. Wasn't tested too much, but she's shown the ability to have tactical speed. 2 and 3 back on turf. She was able to sit off a pace. And then, yeah, obviously last time out had everything her own way and was able to kind of just run around there and have fun. But not Surfer Girl. Thought Process is very talented. This is her home track at Del Mar, where she already has 2 wins over this turf course. Horse for course is important. Hector Barrios sticks in the saddle, obviously, and no one really rides the turf at Del Mar better than Hector Barrios. Obviously, Umberto and Juan and Flavian are all super talented, but Hector's turf ROI is one of the best out on the West Coast. So he's somebody his ROI on the Del Mar turf course is one of the best around. So that's what I like. That's what I like. So I picked this horse 3rd. I'm hoping for a better price, though. 5-2 would be bleh.
It's got to go up, right? I mean, she's obviously, like you said, she's done nothing wrong. Obviously, the concern with her is who she's beat. The 2-year-old fillies out on the West Coast have not been very good, other than her. But again, you can only beat who's in front of you, right? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how she gets played on the board with Lake Victoria. Last horse we'll talk about, of course, I got to throw Virgin Colada in there. She's got a hell of a late kick. I just don't know if it's going to set up for her. There's a horse I'll talk about later when we get to the Classic, who I think has a really good chance to run in the money, but I don't think she's good enough to win. This is exactly her. She always comes with a run. That Miss Grillo was won by Scythian, but it was just really weird. She was a little too far back. And I think she's interesting. She's going to come with a run. Question, obviously, is if she's going to be able to get up for a minor placing. I'm going 1-11-6. Ryan is going 1-4-7 in the Juvenile Turf.
My prediction for Virgin Colada is she wins on Derby Day next year. in one of the turf races. She seems like the type that's going to mature into a good, out of a Carpe Diem mare. They normally take a little bit more than ready, obviously talented all over the place. And Chad Brown, enough said.
I like it. No, I don't have any problem with that. That's
enough said on Chad Brown.
I would love
He knows
that.
how to train.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to the final race of the Turf Pick 3 on Friday. This is the Juvenile Turf. Got a big field of 14. I will try, and I don't know if I can fit all of them onto the screen with the 1 Satona Carnival and the 14 Tenacious Leader. But again, big field of 14. I'll go ahead and switch the picks over. I'm going 1-12-4. Ryan is going 4-9-1. Ryan going with the 4 Al Kudra, Irish Bred, James Doyle, and Appleby, who I believe ran last time either first or second in the Woodbine race.
Yes. Al Kudra and New Century both ran 1-2. Al Kudra was second. However, I didn't love the trip Al Kudra got in there. I thought was a little too far back, given they went 22-3 and then 45-2 for the first half there, which is pretty fast, and then 109 to the third quarter. So it was a fastly run race, and William Buick was closing pretty strongly on Al Kudra. However, that was a 1-turn mile at Woodbine. So it's run kind of typical to kind of the 1-turn dirt sprints miles that we see at Aqueduct or wherever else. So it could be a little deceptive. I think this horse going 2 turns is really going to, find his A game. So I think he's going to be brought a little closer to the race because I don't think they're going to go sub 23. I think it'll be, 23-2. I think this horse is going to sit about 4 lengths off of it. This horse has a really, really strong turn of foot. James Doyle is going to be able to save ground from the 4 spot, going to be able to tip out at the top of the stretch, going to be able to kind of get that pocket trip or get that cover, if you will, which all the European horses kind of, need to succeed or be at their best. So I think Al Kudra is going to be a big threat in here. I love when they come over with a time form rating. In this instance, it's a 91, and then they run a buyer of 91. So that's obviously an improvement as they get to the firm ground over in the US, because time form is normally plus 14 to 16 of a buyer. So if they come over and they are able to, replicate a time form and a buyer or get anywhere close to that, that's a big step up for me.
Yeah, and the firm turf is a good point. Unfortunately, we don't have our good buddy Jackson Muniz to tell us about this. He's a big Woodbine guy, and what I know a little bit from Woodbine is even when the turf is firm, there is, it's not going to be tight like it is at Delmar. So if he does like it firm, then he's going to appreciate Delmar. Like you said, had an honest effort in the summer, second time in the States for Appleby. I don't love the fact that Buick goes to the other Godolphin, which is a 12, who I'll talk about in a little bit. But certainly has to be respected. 4-1 on the line in a wide open race. We'll go to your second choice, the Waco Kid, for Tom Marquand and Hugo Palmer. This was a horse that I believe Davey Lane was a big fan of, and I believe he's already made a bet overseas. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you liked about this horse at 20-1?
Yeah, Davey Lane's insight is something I take into account for all of these European runners. He's exceptional at all the input that he gives. So when he was touting the Waco Kid as one of his top plays and something he's most confident in, especially at the price you're going to get, I had to really do a deeper dive into this horse. Davey pointed out that the jockey had this horse, they had reserved this horse for this spot because they wanted the Breeders' Cup bid. So that was a big plus for me. They think this horse is really going to love the firm going, which obviously is key. And then just coming in here in good shape, the 9-hole worries me a little bit just because that's a touch wide. But I think this horse is going to have the ability to, get forward enough that he's going to be able to tuck over and get a decent spot. I'm hoping like a 2-wide kind of stalking trip or 2-wide, in the second flight of horses. And that should put him in a good enough position. But these mile races are always a tale of the trips. So it's really going to depend on who kind of gets the best run of the race. I know that's not, breaking news in any way, but that's how these turf races always play out. But I think the Waco Kid has the talent. And, according to Davey's also very confident. So I feel confident having this horse on my ticket.
Yeah, high praise from Davey. From the 9-hole, it'll be interesting just because he does have a little bit of tactical speed. Last time in the Tattersall, he broke well. He's prominent early, and he seems to be pretty honestly or pretty close to some honest paces earlier in those races. He's one where he's got a little bit of a quick burst to his running style. So if Tom Marquand is able to time that well with the configuration of Del Mar, just because the stretch is not very long, right? So if he's able to time that, if he's able to get that burst in the right spot, he can get away from the field a little bit, and then when he's got others running and trying to close, he'll just have to see if he's good enough to kind of hold on. Certainly interesting. He beat Diego Ventura last time, who's a horse that's undefeated. So definitely some things to like. Just didn't quite make my top three, but certainly one to consider. Ryan, I'll go ahead and talk about the one who I am a very big fan of in Satono Carnival. Obviously, a Japanese runner for King and Noriyuki Hori. Why don't you go and tell us what you like about this 2-year-old colt? Just because I'm trying to find my notes on him. Go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, I mean, 2 for 2 coming in. Again, Japan is sending quite the contingent out here. I love that this horse, shipped over and had a work over the track, given it was just the 1 furlong. It was going in 12 seconds, but it was on the turf with the dogs out. That doesn't really pertain too much in this workout because they were just going a furlong, so they weren't going around the turns or anything like that. So just a quick furlong, going handily. And comes in good form. Again, the trainer's strong. Japan clearly ships over with a purpose. And this horse is going to be a massive number. And this horse drew the rail in a turf route. This horse is going to save ground. If this horse is good enough, this horse has got a shot.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything. He's interesting because they debuted him as a 2-year-old in late June. Obviously won the maiden race with flying colors, and then they wheeled him back really quickly. It was about, a little over 3 weeks, was able to get that grade 3 win. And I thought it was a little more impressive visually than it was on paper. I just think there's a lot of things going for this 2-year-old. I don't know a lot about the Jockey King, but I believe this is his only ride, at least on Friday. It might be his only ride for the Breeders' Cup entirely. But they bring over a specific jockey to ride. From what I've heard from other podcasts and seen, it seems like there were some different options that could have gone in Japan, but shipping here to the U.S. kind of speaks volumes. In terms of the Japanese chances at this year's Breeders' Cup, I think Forever Young's probably at the top of that list. And I think Satono Carnival and Akuro Sea, for me at least, are kind of vying for that second spot. And it's hard to not like him at 20-1. He's going to save ground at the rail. I'm interested to see how they bet him at the windows. I don't think we're getting 20-1, maybe 10 or 12 if I had to guess. But I like him too much to not try and include him in some verticals and some horizontals. So that's where I stand with Satono Carnival. I'll quickly touch on the 12, who I have in second. That's Amori City. This is the horse that I was referring to, where Buick hopped on here instead of going to the 4. Amori City in his last race, he broke fine. He is a little bit of a grindy type, which I don't like. But again, he's one to consider. He's got some interesting races where he kind of runs in spots, and he's one where he's got talent. It seems like he's kind of got to have everything go his way. Last time was not obviously his greatest effort, as he got beat by Henri Matisse and Sequels 11, who of course are in this race. But it's Buick, Appleby, Godolphin at 10-1. I think he's one you have to include in some horizontals. And that's who I've gotten second. And then Ryan, I've got your 4 and third. Anyone else you want to talk about or mention before we move on to the last leg?
Yeah, just a couple notes. One, to start with your 12, I have this horse as I have B minus, because not bad enough for a C, but not quite good enough for like a solid B for me. I just think he's going to be a little too wide. But the other things I wanted to note was Thursday, Oisin Murphy has 2 mounts in turf route, so there's only 2 of the day. But he'll get a couple good practice runs over the track. He's the only jockey that's shipping over that has those mounts on Thursday, and then I think Buick, from what I saw, was the only one that has one on Friday in a non-Breeders' Cup race. So I don't know if you want to, take that into consideration, where, you get a run over the track in a race that doesn't matter, but is not a Breeders' Cup race. So you can maybe be, experimental. You can see how the track rides, or at least, get the experience of how it goes. So that's something I like to see. I like to see that they have the bookings just so, getting one or two rides over the track might be the difference in, a win or two.
Yeah, no, definitely. While I'm switching over to Saturday, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you guys got going on over in your show, especially what you're going to have going on tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. 4 p.m. Well, this will be released after the show is out, but tonight I'll get the chance to talk with Matt Bernier and Matt Dinnerman, with obviously Jackson Muniz, my normal co-host over on Get Bucked. We're doing our final Breeders' Cup show. We're going over the Distaff, the Classic, the Philly and Meagher Turf, the Breeders' Cup Turf, and then the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So I'm sure that went great. As this will be released and that video will already be out. So that'll be great though. I'm really looking forward to it. Last note on this Breeders' Cup race though would be New Century, another horse that was just left off my ticket, ran against Alcudra last time. Would have used New Century if New Century drew the 4 and Alcudra drew the 11, but because Alcudra drew a little better, that was enough for me to leave New Century off the ticket.
Yeah, certainly. I didn't think about that just because I'm not used to doing the tape shows.
Neither am I.
But yeah, obviously you guys will be watching this once it comes out. So if you're not able to go check that out live, obviously go do that after that is released, because obviously that will be on YouTube. But we'll go ahead and get into the second sequence, which again is the Dirt Pick 4 on Saturday, starting with the Distaff. I'll throw the picks up on the screen and I'll get that switched over. We are not messing around in this race. Obviously, the first race is the Distaff, and we've got the big heavy favorite of the two, the morning line favorite of the two, Torpedo Anna, who, if she doesn't go off as a favorite, I don't know what's going to be happening. Question to be what she goes off at post time. But obviously, we are very similar. I'm going 296, and Ryan is also going 296. Just go ahead and talk about Torpedo Anna a little bit, and then we can touch on the other two runners we have, and we can fly through this race pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-back race at Saratoga, tossed that race. That was clearly a, outlier race. I know that was a 111 buyer, and that's probably what a lot of people love to focus on. I'm not caught up on that race at all. That's not what I'm kind of handicapping off of. You have the Cotillion last race, where almost got caught by Gunsong and Tarifa. Both of them came back to run against each other this past weekend at Aqueduct. They did not run great. The buyer figure maybe hit the 90s. I haven't exactly seen what that came back as. But either way, Torpedo, that race at the Travers took a lot out of Torpedo to run the 111 against the boys. I think that's pretty obvious. She came out of that and she ran into Cotillion less than a month later. That was not her A race. She was not cranked up for that. She finished off well. She just was not 100%. She's had about a month and a half, about 6 weeks off coming into this effort. That's a perfect amount of time between races. She has had a long campaign this year, but I think they've campaigned her correctly. They haven't taken too much out of her. Looking at her works and looking at the videos that Kenny McPeak has been so transparent with posting in the morning on X, this horse is breathing absolute fire. So I expect nothing but the best from Torpedo here. I wish Idiomatic was still in the race. Obviously, we're going to miss Adair Manor as well, but sometimes you just get to sit back and you get to watch a super horse run, and I think that's what Torpedo Anna is capable of. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, there's no question about it. She's probably the most likely winner of the weekend. Even if you do have concerns about, like you said, if that Travers took it out of her, obviously didn't run back huge, and the Cotillion was able to still get the job done. She just really doesn't have to beat much. And her B+ race will probably get the job done. We'll talk about some of the contenders that she has to beat in here. One that I am a little interested in, and you are as well, is a 9 Awesome Result. Obviously for Japan, 7 for 7. It looks like she seems to be pretty talented. The question is if she's just, Torpedo Anna talented.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. And I think this horse can be forward, or at least have some speed. I don't know where exactly Torpedo is going to be. Obviously, Torpedo is going to be within a length of the lead. I think she might just play the break, but obviously from the inside, she'll probably go. Awesome Result maybe just ends up sitting a good trip. I don't think anybody's going to beat Torpedo necessarily, but if any horse were to beat Torpedo in the Distaff. It's not going to be an American horse. We've seen what they have. We've seen what they've thrown at her, and she has responded to the challenge every single time. And it took a dream trip from Fierceness to beat her against the boys. So, I mean, I think this is just kind of the logical second choice. The morning line says so as well, with this horse being 4-1. Although I think Raging Sea is 7-2, but that's a different conversation that I'm sure we'll get into. But awesome result coming in, cutting back off the 1.25 mile trip last time, which not many horses can say. Torpedo has been the 1.25 mile. So that is an interesting kind of aspect here. Is awesome result, Torpedo have both been the 10 furlong distance. So this cutback, although Torpedo, ran the mile in a 16th, this distance shouldn't be a problem for these horses. Sometimes we see a bit of a quote unquote stagger fest coming home, like last year in the Distaff. Idiomatic, Randomized, the Dare Manor, all of them were just kind of chugging home, and it was a struggle. I think this one, Torpedo and Awesome Result, are going to be finishing strong. I just think Torpedo is going to be a little bit better, a little bit fresher. So nothing against Awesome Result, though. I think a logical second choice for me and for you, and a horse that might surprise us.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. She's a clear second choice. Obviously, she's 7 for 7, and she's won those races well. She does like to be forward, and she's never really been challenged on the lead. It'll just be interesting to see who kind of goes with her and what the tactics are with Torpedo, obviously. But I still think it's going to take a regression from Torpedo for Awesome Result to even have a chance. Yeah. We'll quickly talk about the 6 Raging Sea, who was able to beat Idiomatic 2-back. But that race, that win last time, where she just beat Batacuda at 1-9, was certainly not convincing.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that I don't think Raging Sea was fully cranked for that effort. I think that was just to get a run in her before the Breeders' Cup. So the same way I think Torpedo's cotillion win is a little misleading because of the liar buyer figure and just beating a horse like that came back. All right, I don't believe Batacuda's come back to run. Batacuda's in this race. So the track profile is just not going to set up well for her. There's not going to be a speed duel. That would be, beyond shocking. There's just not much speed in here. And we've seen how tough it is to close at Del Mar at times. And that race 2 back at versus Idiomatic, you see all of the red fractions. They went 46-3 at Saratoga. As soon as you saw that, you knew something crazy was going to happen. Idiomatic, to her credit, ran the race of her life to lose that race by a head. She did not deserve to lose. But Raging Sea ran the better race there. Obviously, winner of her last 3 coming in here. But yeah, I think the track profile is going to be too much against her that I could only pick her third.
Yeah, you make a great point about that. Even if she wasn't cranked last time, and she does run to close to the best of her ability, just don't know if that's good enough to beat Torpedo. And again, against what we expect to be with the track profile. Obviously, we've talked about it just a little bit against it in that regard. But again, clear third choice. Like you mentioned, Ryan, she is 7-2, so she is shorter than Awesome Result. It'll be interesting to see how the board changes and whether she does end up second choice or third choice. Ryan and I are both going to 9-6 in the Distaff, and we'll go ahead and move on to not the last race of the weekend, but I guess you could say the race of the weekend. It is the Breeders' Cup Classic. I'll go ahead and present that on the screen here. Got a big field of 14. Morning line favorite is the Euro City of Troy, Ryan Moore, Aiden O'Brien at 5-2. Second choice, the 9 Fierceness for Johnny V and Todd Pletcher at 3-1. And then down to the inside, Forever Young, the Japanese, for Sakai and Yahagi. Ryan, you are going all the way to the outside with Next, my friend. I know a horse that you are very excited to talk about and very excited to see run in the middle of the card on Saturday.
Absolutely. I don't care if this race is not the last one on the day. This is the race I'm most looking forward to, as most people should. I cannot wait to see Next here. I know there's, people, this seems like a very polarizing pick. I saw Matt Bernier on the HHH show yesterday, also likes Next in here. I've loved Next in here and been hoping and waiting for this horse to run in the Classic to get the 1.25 mile, especially versus the group that he's going to face this year. Matt brought up a great point that I had also thought of, which is this horse is cutting back to 1.25 miles, and this horse wants to run forever. I don't think any of the other horses in here are going to be finishing as strong as this horse. This horse has so much stamina in him from these marathon races and just demolishing the field. And we've seen a turn of foot from next that you don't see on dirt horses. You can look at the final, fraction of these races, and he's running 12-second closing furlongs, or he's running 23-second closing, like 2 furlongs. So it's remarkable to see a horse close that quickly. And just last point is, you can see in the running lines, this horse has been forward in these marathon races, which obviously we're cutting back, so the pace is going to be quicker. There's a decent amount of pace signed on in here, so I don't know how close he's going to be, but I know I'm confident Luan can get him in a good position. You have the 1.25 miles at Del Mar that we talked about on our track profile show. You have the entire length of the stretch, plus about 40-ish yards in the turf chute, or the dirt chute, to kind of work with. So 14 is the dream post for this horse, honestly. I think he's going to be able to stay in the clear the entire way around. He can be wide. I don't think that matters. And he's going to be finishing when all the other horses are getting tired. He's the only horse in this race that can say that he's cutting back to 1.25 miles, which in itself is a ridiculous statement. But I just can't wait to see this horse run. The only negative is 8-1 is not the price I want on this horse. And I don't think we'll get 8-1. I think we'll get closer to 12, 14, maybe in that area. And that's certainly a lot better for me. But I just can't wait to see next show everybody what they've got. And I'm really hoping he wins. That would be just such a cool story.
Yeah, one of the stories of the weekend for sure. When Bernier was on the show last night, he was definitely thinking that it would go up, like you said, between 12 and 15. He's just so fascinating to me because I have no idea what the hell to do with him. I mean, his numbers totally line up. Obviously, you can make the case that he hasn't beaten much, but look at the way that he's doing it. I mean, it's just it's absurd. And like you said, the 14 is not going to be a problem. It'll be interesting to see where he positions himself early. I think he'll probably be close to the pace. I don't know if he'll be on it. Probably just right off of it, because it looks like there could be a decent amount of speed in here with Fierceness, City of Troy, and a couple others. So interesting to see. Definitely one of the stories of the weekend. We'll go to your second choice. I just realized that we are very different in this race, so we're going to have 6 horses to talk about. The next one we'll talk about is Ushba Tesoro, which is one of the Japanese, 12-1 on the line. Was a short price in this race last year and couldn't quite get it done. But he's run really well if recent. Just the question of whether he is the same just because he is 7 years old at this point.
I apologize. This is supposed to be the 6. This is supposed to be the other Japanese runner. I sent in the wrong number. I got them confused here. Okay. I meant to send in Derma Sotogake. I think this horse has good forward position. I have Ushba Tesoro as my 4th choice here, so that's on me. But I like Derma Sotogake most in here, just because he ran well in this race last year. He came in. Oh, excuse me. I was looking at the wrong thing. He comes in off one race since racing at Maidan earlier in the year. So he's gotten kind of a race under his belt, going the 1 mile and an 1/8. He didn't win, and he didn't look, super impressive in that one, but he has some forward position. And I think his best races have come on U.S. soil as of recent. Again, 4 years old. He's been strongly campaigned, and I think that this is a decent spot for him. I just didn't like much of the other runners in here. Fierceness, I'm fading Fierceness forever. He can beat me, whatever. You're going to talk about Forever Young and City of Troy, so I'll let you get to those. But I'm against those in here, and I thought Derma Sotogake might have a shot at springing a pretty good upset. You're finally going to get a decent price, or you will get a decent price on this one. And yeah, I think he's he has enough ability. He ran the 105 in the last year's classic, losing to White Barrio, and I think a 105 gets you real close this year.
Yeah, I heard on somewhere, obviously last year, ran in the Derby and then went into the classic without a prep. He didn't have a race in between that. You can make the case that he hasn't run as well as of now. But again, you can also make the argument that last time at Funabashi on September 25th, he maybe just doesn't need a prep. I mean, he's only 4 years old, still some improvement. They got blinkers on, which will be interesting. Maybe they'll be a little more forward with him. Depends on what Christoph the Mare does if he breaks. He's certainly one that I took a look at just because I'm not a huge fan of the U.S. horses in here. Obviously, just because I've got a Euro and a Japanese in first and second, but certainly one to consider. I am going with City of Troy. Aiden's said it many times. This is the best horse that he's ever trained. Obviously, the question with him is whether he's going to take to the dirt. I think he is definitely going to take to the dirt. And if he does, I think he's much the best in here. Some of his races are just so impressive. I know it's on turf, but just the ability with this 3-year-old is it's insane. There's really not much to say. But I am going with him on top. Forever Young, I have in second. Like I said earlier, I do think he is the most likely Japanese entrant to win this weekend. I don't mind the rail for him. He's just going to kind of sit in behind the speed. The one thing to worry about with him is the break. Obviously, we saw that in the Derby, and he ran huge. And the thing with him, too, is he is tactical. Even though he came from way out of it in the Derby, that's not really his preferred style. So I think he's just going to sit a really good trip, just depending on whether he's going to be better on Saturday than City of Troy for me. Ryan, we'll go to your third choice, who I don't have anywhere. We've got six different horses, like I said. Highland Falls, who was able to turn the tables on
Arthur's Ride.
Arthur's Ride, yes. I couldn't think of his name because he wasn't in the top three. Able to turn the tables on him last time with a huge 104 in the Jockey Club.
Yeah, real quick on Forever Young. I mean, the horse is 6 for 7 lifetime, and the horse ran his race in the Derby, and he probably should not have lost. If I'm being honest, he probably should have got there. There was, a little bit of lugging in by your third choice.
That's a sensitive subject with this group.
I know it is. I had Forever Young on top in a superfecta, so I needed that in a bad way. But I digress. The reason I couldn't pick Forever Young on top was I think the rail could be an issue solely because this horse has issues breaking from the gate at times. Isn't the sharpest horse out, and I think that could be a major detriment to him. So that was the only reason I left him off my ticket. But to go to Highland Falls, this horse has really matured into a good animal as of late. Last 4 races are all really strong, not finishing worse than second in any of those. And then that last race, I think they just kind of found what this horse might want to do, and maybe that's just be forward. That ride on Pratt was one of the rides of the year. You had Arthur's Ride, who was a heavy favorite going into there, and Highland Falls just took it to him. Got to the inside. Arthur's Ride was determined to go, so Pratt just kind of switched out and put the pressure on Arthur's Ride from the outside, and that was it was a masterclass. Pratt took him to school. Obviously, Pratt hops off here and you get Saez, but something about Saez is he's aggressive. And again, are we really going to let a curling colt trained by Brad Cox, owned by Godolphin, ridden by one of the best Derby winning jockey last year? Are we just going to let him go off at 20-1? I'm okay with that. He'll be on my ticket. I hope people forget about this horse because I think this horse is improving. I think this horse has a shot to sit a decent trip, and I think this horse clearly relishes the 1.25 miles. Having run this distance twice, once in the big cap at Santa Anita and finished a not impressive 4th, but that run the Jockey Club I think really does speak volumes. So that was enough for me to pick that horse on top.
Yeah, well, I thought.
Third.
I thought he was running late in the big cap in March. I thought he ran, an honest effort.
Yeah.
And then last time in the Gold Cup, obviously with the very impressive. I think people are just discounting him because they don't know if he can match that. And I think maybe the 104, 105, 106 is probably what it takes to win the race. So if that's really his best, maybe he doesn't have that in him. Saez just kind of hops on because Giroux and Pratt have other places to go. But Saez has been really good of lately, especially at Keeneland, which is where he was stationed for most of it. Gaffleon got the riding title, but Saez was very good on his mounts and took advantage of a lot of good trips and a lot of good horses. So certainly one to consider. I'll throw in the 11, which of course is the one that is the central idea of the sensitive subject, Sierra Leone. This is the same thing with Virgin Colada, where I don't think he's good enough to win the race, but I think he's got a hell of a shot to run in the money. He just keeps getting better and better. It was interesting. Chad Brown made a comment. I saw it on the Breakfast with the Breeders' Cup. He said, maybe it's the case of his late kick just isn't as effective at Saratoga, which you can see he hasn't he's run respectable efforts, but he just hasn't been able to get the job done at those three, which made me think a little bit, just because he was so dominant in the Risen Star and the Bluegrass with that huge late kick, and then with the Derby, which we obviously won't talk about. Pratt obviously hops on again. He is won against the bias, which is why I don't think he can win the race. But again, there is going to be speed. He is going to be running late. I think he's a huge play underneath, and one that can certainly run in the money. So I'm going with him. Anyone else to talk about in the Classic before we get to our last two races?
Yeah, I have two things. One is a question for you, but first on Sierra Leone, you have to try Key this horse. I mean, this horse has never finished out of the try. Yeah. Horse has run 1.25 miles 3 times and has run really good races all 3 times. Yes, is a bit against the bias at Del Mar with the 1.25 miles. This is a big lumbering horse, but Pratt has ridden him before, has ridden him well before. Pratt's going to get this horse going at the right time, going to make a move around the far turn. He's going to be a contention at the quarter pole, which you and I covered in our track profile. You need to be, if not on the lead, probably second at the quarter pole. This horse is going to be close. You should get around 12-1 with the amount of action that some of these other runners are going to take. Fierceness, City of Troy, Forever Young. Those are going to take substantial money. So if I can get double-digit odds on Sierra Leone, definitely try keying that horse, and definitely going to put a bit of a win bet on him as well, just in case he does get there. I don't want him to finally beat me. And then last thing, and this is, a bit of an open-ended question maybe. The horse of the year debate is kind of up in the air right now, I think, in terms of the older dirt males. If Next wins, is that good enough to get him in there?
Ooh.
Because the whole conversation this year, obviously he's just butchered the rest of the marathon field. He's put them to bed, won by 90-something lengths in his past 6 starts or whatever it is. But if he comes and faces, a grade 1 caliber and he wins by, let's say, I don't think he's going to win by a head. He's either going to win by 3 lengths or he's going to, run up the track. Mm-hmm. So if he wins, it's going to be decisive. And again, I don't think it's enough to give him horse of the year, but I think it definitely puts him in the conversation. I think he could get some, some good votes for it.
Yeah,
I think
it depends on what Torpedo Anna and Fierceness do. If Torpedo Anna wins the Distaff on Saturday, that is going to make her resume much stronger. Fierceness has already got a strong resume with the Jim Dandy and the Travers, and that'll only sparkle his resume. And he's not even a horse that we got a chance to talk about. But it's just a fascinating race, especially this year. A lot of things to talk about, a lot of storylines. So that is it's going to be a great rendition of the Classic, and
it is
very excited for that. So we'll go ahead and move on.
Talk about Fierceness while we're on the class. I feel maybe we should.
Let's talk about it.
All right. If this horse runs a race where he gets to sit in the clear 2 or 3 wide and go around the track and then just get home, he's gonna win the race. But if he gets any kind of kickback, if he gets any kind of trouble, if he stumbles at the break, if he has any kind of adversity, he has not proven a single time in his racing career that he will even lift a hoof if he encounters some issues. And that in a 14 horse Breeders' Cup Classic field, that's awesome. By the way, we didn't touch on the fact that we got a 14 deep Classic field in 2024. That's sensational. 3-1, which anywhere under 10-1 on Fierceness, for me, I'm not touching him. That's not worth it. I know that might be ridiculous, 8-1 on Fierceness. I guess, people say that's value or whatever. I just don't like this horse. If he has any kind of trouble, he's losing. And I think, you have Arthur's Ride to his outside. I don't know how, Arthur's Ride's going to be aggressive and send hard to the front. I don't know where that leaves Fierceness going into the far turn. Again, if he sits the perfect trip, he's got a chance to win. He has the right jockey on board in Johnny V. Very talented 3-year-old colt here, but just not a horse that I can endorse with any amount of confidence.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about value lines. I think value for me would probably be 6-1. Does that seem fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
For his resume, that's fair. And I just can't endorse him because he just doesn't like trouble.
Yeah. Well, there's no chance that he doesn't get dirt in his face, right? I
Right.
mean, there's not with Arthur's right coming over and another speed.
Unless
What
he's,
what other what are they? Does Johnny V just go to the lead? Like what?
I don't know. Unless he's 4 wide into the turn, and at that point, I don't think he's good enough. But I don't know. Like I don't
Well,
know.
even he would have to switch places with Arthur's ride. Like Arthur's ride would have to be like a length or half ahead of him, and then he would have to switch to the outside and then stay wide. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah, there'd be a lot that would have to go right for him to sit a perfect trip.
Yeah, we could talk about him all day, but we should probably get to the last 2 races.
We probably should.
So I'll go ahead and do that here. Next race that we will be talking about is a sprint, which might be even more of a headache. These races just become more of a headache as we continue on through Saturday. I'll go ahead and bring up the field here. Got the echo base right here. Got a field of 11. Morning line favorite, I was a little surprised by with the 3 federal judge. Irad gets the mount for Brad Cox at 3-1. Second choice to 10 Milliken for Pratt and Brissett at 7-2. And a lot of horses vying for third and fourth choice. You got Straight No Chaser, Nakatomi in there, Skelly. You got the Japanese entrant remake. Even Raging Torrent's interesting at 10-1. A lot of ways you can go. I'll bring up the picks now. I'm going 10-4-8. Ryan is going 4-9-2. Ryan going with the 4 Nakatomi, who did run second to federal judge, but seems like one of the few closers in a race with a ton of speed.
Yeah. I was floored that federal judge is the favorite, but whatever. I'm focusing on this one because it's a dirt sprint that is absolutely loaded with speed. I think if this race was 7 furlongs, I would probably be singling Nakatomi because I think Nakatomi's got a ridiculous chance to sit the exact right trip and close. Second is last time out at Keeneland, ran against federal judge, was against the track bias. You see the blue first fraction. They were going pretty slow. It was kind of an inside speed bias. Nobody made up any ground in that race except for Nakatomi. And then the last point is if you look back in last year's running lines, Ward is training this horse up the exact same way. A mid-July race at Saratoga matches the mid-July race this year going 6, and then comes into the grade 2 Phoenix, runs a respectable 99 buyer. I don't think was fully cranked up, and then bang, fires a 105 buyer in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And they weren't going like crazy fast. And also you were not beating Elite Power last year. So I think, you take all that into account, and he comes in here in the right way. He comes in here exactly how Ward wants him to. Tyler and Nakatomi had a great race last out. Again, coming against that track bias. I know the buyer only came back 93, but coming in here, you're going to get a lot of speed. This horse can come from off the pace. Going to save, a decent bit of ground. Should be able to just kind of tip out and pass all the tiring pace horses that I'm sure we'll get into here. And yeah, Nakatomi, that landed on this horse on top. That's my top pick.
Yeah, I certainly think he's interesting for some of the similar points that you make. Ran a huge race in the Vanderbilt. I just thought in the Phoenix, he was kind of bound for a bounce, right? I mean, there's no way that he could run back to that 105. And he still ran a respectable effort, but nobody was beating federal judge that day. You can make the case that if anything, the track was a little favored towards speed. But I just noticed this right now. That first quarter was coded blue. So federal judge in a sense, I guess, got things his own way. If it was speed favoring, that doesn't necessarily help Nakatomi. And again, I thought his race was honest. Obviously he wasn't going to get the job done. But again, training similarly to last year. Gaffalione, very familiar with him. And again, one of the few closers, which is why I think he's interesting and have him in second. Speaking of second, you are going with the Japanese entrant remake. 8-1 on the line. Kawada from the replay seems to be one of the closers and honestly could be the best in here.
Yeah. I think this horse is one of the best closers in here. I think Nakatomi might just be able to sit a closer trip to the pace and be able to close. We know how hard it is to make up substantial ground at Del Mar. But we've seen crazier things happen. We saw Aloha West win the sprint last time this race was at Del Mar. So just a horse that I'm not going to leave off my ticket. I would like to go too deep here in some plays using the 4 and the 9. because I think you can get out of there with this because I think there's just way too much speed. And we're going to talk about the 2 later, which is another horse that I like at a price. But to stick with Remake, best closer, comes in off a prep after not racing since a Meydan effort in the Golden Shaheen back in March. So comes in with a race, prep race under his belt, won in a million, whatever the Korean dollar amount is, race over in Korea. Sorry for not knowing. Beat Jasper Crone, who ran in the Breeders' Cup last year, if I remember correctly. Anarchist is a really talented horse. Did not beat a poor field by any stretch of the imagination. Comes in here, second off the layoff. Should be ready for this. 8-1 seems like a fair price, and I think you'll get close to that. This is a pretty deep and competitive field, and everybody seems to love speed in sprints. So I think this horse might get overlooked just a touch, and I'm going to use this horse with a fair amount of confidence.
Yeah, I for sure am going to have him on tickets. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he's like 5-1, 9-2. I think I hear a lot of buzz. Again, he's one of the few closers along with Nakatomi. Obviously, he's very talented, and again, Japanese is shipping over. They're not shipping a paint; they're shipping a win, right? Exactly. But yeah, Remake. The one concern with him, and which why I don't have him in the top 3. If you think Forever Young has trouble breaking, Remake is he's a very slow starter. That's just a notorious thing with him. He's one that always needs some pace. Certainly he should get it. We've got a lot of speed signed on, so he's going to get it. The concern again with the break, and if he's able to get there in time, obviously I think is interesting. You'll see him on my ticket. But he's one that's interesting. Ryan, you got him in second. Didn't make my top 3, but again, one to consider. I'll go ahead and talk about my top pick with the 10 Mulligan. He just got really good over the summer. Won the Grade 2 at Aqueduct. He was really close to the lead that time. And then he was on the lead last time in the Forego. Beat Gun Pilot. He's beat some familiar foes in here. He just seems like he's on the up and up. They've given us some time to get ready for this race. I know you followed Keeneland a little bit, you followed Keeneland and Brissett a little bit over the fall meeting. Brissett, I think he was like, what was he, 9 for 20, 9 for 21. I know at one point he was like 44%. So he's his horses are running right now. Pratt stays on the mount. And the thing with him is I think he can sit and stalk. And with the pace, I think he's just going to set a really great trip. He'll let the speed go to the inside. Hopefully he doesn't get too tangled up with Skelly, because Skelly is to his inside. But if he's able to work out a nice trip, I think he's certainly one to consider, and one that probably should be on your tickets. Definitely on my tickets. Ryan, we'll go to the horse that you have in third, which is Gun Pilot, who just lost to Mulligan. He's got some numbers to go back to. He ran that 101 in the Churchill Downs, obviously, that weekend. Steve Asmussen, if you have been paying attention to him, his horses have not been firing huge. But again, you can make the case that he's not bringing his best to Keeneland. But he is, he does have that one thing under his belt where he is North America's leading trainer. So he's got that going for him.
He does. He has that one. And I think Mulligan's a very talented horse. The wide post draw and the fact that horse has never been in a fast-paced race. You look at those time form figs, going 7 has gotten 22 and change for each of those fractions. They're going to go not sub 21. They're going to go 21 and 2 at the absolute slowest. So I don't know if that race was 7, I would probably like Mulligan a lot more. To your point, and then you get Pratt on board, which is obviously a huge vote of confidence. Sticking to the 7 furlong thing, if Gun Pilot was going 7, he'd probably be my top choice. But going the 6, I think this horse still has some real ability to be able to close well. You mentioned the race in the Churchill Downs where this horse was able to win and draw off. You saw they went, sub 45 to the half, which 7 furlongs, that's fast, but that's not blazing, by any means. 44 and 4. And this horse had the lead at the quarter pole. So that shows me that 6 furlongs is not a huge issue for this horse. It's not like he's getting up by a head at 7 furlongs or he's up by a length at 7 furlongs. Like he is in contention for the lead, about a furlong and a half out of it or so. And he's he's never out of the money at this distance. He's never actually worse than second, with 2 wins and a second at the 6 furlong configuration. Given most of those, I think, have come at Oaklawn and Fairgrounds. So you get a substantial test here in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, excuse me. But comes in off the 4-go run, and he was pretty far back. He drew the rail that day. I love to see that Christian Torres is sticking with this horse. Asmussen, yeah, he hasn't been firing great, but if you look down at the workouts, he has that 3 furlong drill that I love to see from Steve Asmussen right leading into a race. That kind of just tips me off that he's kind of ready for this, and that's just kind of a last little prep to get him into here. He's trained up to this since that race in the 4-go, as has Mulligan and some others. And I think this race is just going to set up a lot better for him. He's going to be able to save a decent amount of ground, which I think is of some importance. And then, just being able to come home, and he's going to be able to close into a half mile that I don't see it above 44 and 44 flat.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's funny. You make the exact point why I don't like Gun Pilot, which is I think he's a lot better at 7 than he is at 6. And that's partially why I did like him in the Churchill Downs, because it looks like he likes to go a little bit further than 6. In the 6.5 race, obviously didn't work out for him, and ran a respectable effort last time in the 4-go. But again, he's facing some pretty superior competition. But you can make the case that at 20-1, he's certainly one to use underneath. Last horse that I'll touch on before we move on to our last race is Straight No Chaser. I am just really worried. He's so damn fast, and I'm just so worried that he might be the speed of the speed. If he gets caught up in a little bit of a duel, I don't think he has really much of a chance to kind of put that speed away and then hold off closers. But I'm just really worried that he's going to get the lead. He was so good early 23, and then he obviously had his issues. He was off for a while. That race that he ran, which was only about a month ago, last time in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship, which I believe was that might have been the day after the California Crown Day. Is that what that was? So coming back pretty quickly, from what I've heard from Dan Blacker on some of the morning shows, it seems like there are a lot of things that he likes about him, and he's going into the race really well. Again, just really worried that he might get the lead by himself, just because he is so damn fast. Got the time form of 1:31, which is why I have him in 3rd and why I have him on my tickets. If he doesn't get the lead as easily as I think he could, the chances for me are not as likely, but certainly one to use, and that's who I threw in 3rd. But we'll move on to the last race. In the sprint, I'm going 10-4-8, and Ryan is going 4-9-2. Let me go ahead and switch that.
Yeah, Straight No Chaser is a weird horse to look at, because those fractions that he set last time out were coded blue, and he went 44 flat. Mm-hmm. And that's an absurd thing to see. So whether or not you trust that's kind of up to you, but he is naturally the quickest. But you have a horse like Skelly who needs the lead. And I think Straight No Chaser does too. So I think that is going to set up for a bit of a duel, as long as Skelly breaks right. If Skelly doesn't, you could see yourself in a situation where, maybe you have Straight No Chaser on a lone lead somehow.
Yeah, the one thing that he does have going for him is he is to the inside of Skelly. So if Skelly shows some antics that he has the last couple of times, then maybe he's just able to get the lead, and then we'll just kind of see from there. Last race we'll talk about is the Dirt Miles, the final leg of the 50 cent all dirt pick 4 on Saturday. Just another race that'll give you a headache. It does not stop. Morning line favorite in this race is the 9 Domestic Product for Pratt and Chad Brown at 7-2. Second choice, I believe, is all the way to the outside with the 14 Skippy Longstocking. Sorry, I can't fit all of the horses on the screen. And third choice is the 10 Muth, JJ, and Baffert. I'll throw our picks on at the bottom of the screen. I'm going 10-12-9. Ryan going 9-8-5. So we're very different in this race as well. Ryan going with the 9 Domestic Product, who is your morning line favorite, coming off of a really nice win last time.
Yeah, Domestic Product. This horse should win. This horse has the strongest figures coming in. I hated taking a 7-2 price in here, but it makes a lot of sense. So I'm okay taking a shorter price in a really wide open field or a really deep field that's going to give you a headache to look at. An issue I have is I don't love practical jokes going 2 turns, but this horse has done it somewhat successfully and clearly relishes this 1 mile distance. The 101 in the Dwyer was great to see. And then the 7 furlongs in the Jerkins just got up by a neck. But that tells me that, if he kind of had the opportunity to go another furlong, he galloped out pretty well. And I think just the race dynamics are going to set up a little better for him going 2 turns. You look to the inside, and I think gates 1 through 3 are all speed. And like, they're not optional speed. It is their speed. So you're going to have speed in here. There's plenty of other speed horses that, we can mention if we want, but regardless of that, this race is just going to set up for him. And I think Chad Brown and Pratt, Clarovich Stables, enough kind of set on the connections. They're going to train this horse right. Jockey Flavian is going to give this horse a great ride. And I think that's about all she wrote. Domestic Product is the best horse in this race. The race dynamics fit for this horse. And yeah, should have no excuse turning for home, really.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably get either 7-2 or 3-1. There is this thing that a lot of people are going to be playing, and this race will be very important in it. It's called the BCBC. So it'll be interesting to see how the market moves based off of, just because a lot of people are going to be betting into this race based on the contest. But still, I think you'll get probably 3-1, 7-2, because it is a pretty wide open race. I went directly to the outside with the 10 Muth, who was absolutely horrible last time in the California Crown. But this would be so Bob Baffert-esque to bring him back and to win this race after that effort last time. It seems like he's training really well. And if Bob's got him in this race, I feel like he's probably going to bring his best. I don't know if his best is going to be good enough. But he's going to be right next to the lead. He probably should be off of either the 1, 2, or 3, like you said, who are the main speeds down to the inside. It'll just be a question of whether JJ can work out a trip. Obviously, he really had nothing wrong last year until that little bit of blemish going a mile and 1/8 at the California Crown, which you can make an excuse that was too far. But simply, he was just playing bad. And I don't know about you, I was super shocked that he actually went off as the favorite instead of National Treasure that day. But again, it would be very Baffert-esque for him to run like that and to come back and to win this race. So I kind of, in a way of default, I've got him on top. I'm going to be certainly using him. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in terms of contest play. We'll have to see late Saturday, which I'll maybe have a better opinion by then. But we're going to have to see. Ryan, you actually went to
one quick thing on Muth. One quick thing on Muth that I think you'd like to hear. I spoke with some people up at Santa Anita, and the consensus was we don't know why he was running the California Crown. I think the ownerships just wanted to get that race in there because of the purse. Juan wrapped up on him around the 6 furlong pole, and so he really didn't he was not running well that race. But he wasn't hurt. He came out of the race fine. So it wasn't a situation where, he's been questionable or anything like that. It was just, I don't think he was ready for that race. It was a really quick turnaround against older horses after coming off of a substantial layoff of March of that year, running in the Shared Belief, which is a pretty easy race by his standards. And then, a quick turnaround. Well, 3 weeks later so just wasn't quite ready for that. I know the ownership had kind of hoped to get him into the Classic, but I think the mile is a much more reasonable spot for him. And then last note, just as further kind of examination of how he came out of the California Crown, looking at the works since then, he has been back to his normal self. He's going sub 48 for the 4 furlongs on the 14th. He went, sub minute for both 5 furlong drills leading into this. So he's kind of back to his form. You notice out of the Shared Belief stakes, he had a weirdly slow work that's not really typical of him. 2 pretty slow works. I know the 5 furlongs in 1:02 isn't slow necessarily, but that's slow by the way Bob Baffert horses train. And I spoke with somebody, and that work on the 26 was really nice. You can watch the video, of course, on XBTV, and I think it's posted on X. That work was really nice. He looks to be coming in here the right way. He didn't get too much taken out of him in the California Crown, and he came out of that race really well. So I like what you this would be the race where you're like, oh shit, Bob Baffert at a mile on dirt just got me. Yeah. It's like, yeah, this would probably be the one.
Yeah, that I could see that scenario happening. It's not even funny. We'll talk about who you got in second. You've got Post Time, the 8, who is he's about as honest as it gets. He's such a hard knocker, runs a really nice race every time. This is for the Russells, which I'm not super familiar with their Breeders' Cup history, but this has to be one of the better horses that they've ever, ridden and trained together. And that win in the Polynesian was very convincing, and he looks like he's going into the race at a career best.
Yes. Couple notes real quick. This horse, I'm not sure about the Brittany Russell stats in the Breeders' Cup, and that's not really something I pay too much attention to. It's something where, if the race sets up right, any horse can win. They're all coming in here ready for their best effort. Quick note, I'd love to see that this horse worked well over the Delmar track. That's a positive sign, that most recent work on the 26th. Next note, this horse has raced 13 times and has never missed the trifecta. So 12-1 on this horse. He's raced in grade 1s, grade 2s, 1-turn miles, 2-turn, Whitney's in the slop. He has raced and danced every dance, and he has run his race. You mentioned hard trying horse. That's exactly what Post Time is. Post Time's going to be there at the end of this race. I don't know if he's going to be closer to the lead. I don't know if he's going to come from 20 out of it, but he's going to be in the trifecta. He's a horse I'm going to use in, tri-keys all over the place. I'm not going to let this horse not be on a ticket somewhere, somehow, because I think at the end of the day, this horse could fall apart. This race could melt down a little bit. And this horse is as hard trying as it gets, as you mentioned, and should be capable of picking up the pieces. Comes in off a good effort at Laurel in the Polynesian that I don't think took too much out of him, and is going to come in here in good shape. 105 Beyer, 105 Beyer, 2 back in the Whitney. That shows that he can contend with those top dogs, if you will. And I think a 105 Beyer here in the mile, I think that might just put him in the winner's circle.
No, I love the thinking. I mean, he's very interesting. This race is too wide open to not think that he's interesting. I mean, why the hell not? Why can't he run second or third, let alone win the race? Speaking of a horse with some big odds and would be a shock, you've got the 5-3 technique at 30-1, which you'll have to do some explaining here, my friend.
Yeah, I'll do some explaining. Why not? We've seen races like this melt down in the past. 3 technique, he's not the best. He's not the best horse in this race. I'm not going to try and things are going to have to go really, really right for him to find the winner's circle. However, I think there's enough pace in here because there are 4 horses that absolutely need the lead. So I think that is going to set up for a blazing hot pace. He's proved that he can close. He's got a nice turn of foot. Bejarano has beat me enough times at Delmar that I'm not going to let him do it again on Breeders' Cup Day. And I mean, I like the post position, and I think he's going to need to run the best race of his life at 7 years old. I don't know if that's possible, plain and simple. However, I think he's going to get a setup that is going to be favorable to him. So if he's best, he can get there. I don't know that he's best. It's going to take a lot again, but I would feel I'd feel foolish for leaving a closer out of a race that I think you could easily see a 44-second half mile again in here. I think they are going to be blazing up front.
Okay. Interesting. Good luck with that. I'm never gonna talk you up a horse's 30-1. But good luck with that. That's all I gotta say. I'll quickly touch on Mufasa, and then we'll go ahead and show the tickets to wrap up the show. Mufasa is a horse who ran a huge race at Colonial with the 99, then came back. I thought the Vosburg was a very solid effort. I didn't think he was his best, and I think it was a little bit of a prep to get him ready for this. Obviously, it was in the slop, and he got a pretty favorable setup, but he just did it professionally. He was, pretty geared down, and I don't know if he gave everything he has. I think he's still got some in the tank. Tyler hops on, which is very interesting. Nacho Correas has been doing very well, And at 12-1, I think he's certainly one you have to have on your tickets. I know our boss, Howard Kravitz, is a little bit of a fan of this horse and might be making a play in the BCBC, maybe not. But certainly one that I think is interesting, and I'm going to have him on tickets. But to wrap up the dirt mile, I'm going 10, 12, 9, and Ryan is going 9, 8, 5. We'll go ahead and show tickets that we have created for you guys real quick, starting with the Turf Pick 3. I know we've been talking a lot of dirt, but Ryan, if you could go back, talk about your ticket, a little bit of recollection with the turf races. You've got a $27 ticket, so go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going 3x3 pretty much. It's pretty simple. Three by 1x3. I'm gonna single Lake Victoria in the middle. I'm gonna spread a little bit on the ends there. Forgive me for forgetting who these horses were. It's been an hour 20 minutes, so I got to go back in my brain a little bit. But just thinking to it, I know in that first race, as I scroll over to double check that I'm talking about the correct one. Going 2, 8, 10 in the first. That's Asterius. We mentioned that they're gonna draw the rail now with Out on Bail out. We're going 5 furlongs on the turf. Asterius should be forward, which is where you want to be. And then I'm going with the 8. That's a Koro Sieg for the Japanese runner who is incredibly talented, going the 107 and 1 for the 6 furlong. So I don't see the 5 furlong journey being an issue. And then Governor Sam as well. Should be speed, possibly speed of the speed, going sub 21 for that 5.5 furlong race at Keeneland recently. You mentioned the tailwind that was on him, but either way, this is a fast horse, and I think that is going to be important in a race like this. And then, of course, Lake Victoria is going to be my single, along with probably a few other people, if I had to guess, in a sequence like this, because I think that's a horse you can really lean on. I'm curious to see what the off odds are, but at the end of the day, Breeders' Cup, these pools are going to be substantial, and you're going to get paid if you get any type of price on either end of this. This might not be one that, breaks the bank, but in that last leg, if we can get Santono Carnival home at, 20-1, because I think you might get close to that price, that's going to pay a good amount. It's still going to pay 4 figures, even with Lake Victoria winning it, probably what's going to be 6-5 at the absolute best. And then the number 4 in there, that's Alcudra, comes out of the grade 1 summer at Woodbine. Not much more to say. And then the Waco Kid, obviously Davy Lane's top pick, something I take to heart with everything he says, because it comes from a place of expertise, knowing those European runners, and then just doing my own work. Just looks like a horse that's going to handle this ground pretty well, has some really good efforts, comes in. I'm a little concerned that he's going to have to save some ground from that 9 hole, but 20-1 on the morning line with Tom Marquand, who is definitely talented and able to give some good rides in big spots. That's enough for me to pick that horse with some confidence to finish. And gotta love the price, right?
Yeah, no, I think the ticket structure is there. Obviously, it's very similar to mine. So, and I like to consider myself as a astute handicapper and better. But I'm obviously thinking similarly, going with the single with Lake Victoria. I've got 3 in the Juvenile Turf Sprint as well. And then the last race, even though I do like Satona Carnival, I think that's just a really wide open race in general. And I think you can get a price. I mean, the morning line favorite in there is what, 4-1 or 7-2. Yeah. So I think that's just kind of indicative of what can kind of happen in that race. I've got a $45 ticket. Like I said, Ryan, you got a $27 ticket. I'll go ahead and show our tickets for the Dirt Pick 4. Ryan, go ahead and talk about your ticket. What I probably should be doing is reading off the ticket for the audio listeners. But go ahead and read it and then talk a little bit about it.
Yep. So my pick 4 on the dirt is 2-9 with 14 with 2-4-7-9 with 4-5-8-9. So starting off in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, I'm using a Grizzly Bear with a Japanese horse. That should get you through that leg. I'm using the 9 because I think if you knock out Torpedo in a sequence like this, it's going to pay pretty decent. And I know typically when you build a ticket, you don't want to use the favorite and another horse, especially if it's like a really heavy favorite. But I'm singling next in the Breeders' Cup Classic because I think you're going to get a price. You're going to get at least the sixth choice come betting time, and that is more than enough for me. You might even get better than that. I'm hoping for double-digit odds, and I don't have much more to say. This horse is either going to finish dead last or is going to finish first. I don't think this is a horse that really is capable of battling others. I think he just might be better. He might be finishing when the others aren't. And I think that might be all it takes. It's up to Luan Machado to get him in the right position. I'm going 2-4-7-9 in the next leg. And that next leg is, of course, not the Breeders' Cup Classic. That is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. For the boys, I'm going 2-4-7-9. I'm picking a pace meltdown in here. Remake and Remake and Nakatomi are my two top picks in there. Gun Pilot I have, who I spoke about. I just like the draw. And then a horse I never really spoke about is the number 7. That's Metamax. Another Japanese runner, can kind of come from a little off of it. Kind of rallies from mid-pack, and I think he might sit a decent trip. And of course, we have seen things melt down before at Delmar on Breeders' Cup Day, whether that's Marsh Lorraine going, coming for the win in the Distaff, or Aloha West, who I mentioned a little earlier. So that's enough there. And then we're going into the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, where I'm going 4, 5, 8, 9. And those horses are, of course, 3 Technique, who is going to need a lot to go his way. But I want to use him. We have the Hard Trying Post Time that we spoke about, and then Domestic Product, who should be the most likely winner for sure. But I wanted to use some prices, because if this really does melt down, he might be a little too close to the pace and someone might be able to catch him. A horse that I didn't talk about is number 4, Katona, trained by Doug O'Neill, and then ridden by Frankie Dettori. Comes out of 2 straight grade 1s, going 1.25 miles and a 1.125 miles, being the Pacific Classic and the California Crown. So cuts back to 1 mile. So he's going to have the stamina under him. He's run well at 1 mile before going the 2 turns. It was in an optional claiming race, but whatever. He got a 96 buyer that's at least respectable. And I think this horse is going to sit the right trip. He's going to have the stamina in him from those long races, the last 2. And I think he's going to be able to maybe just come flying at the finish. I don't know that he'll get there, but again, he's a price in a race that I truly believe has the capability of melting down. So again, my ticket is 2-9 with 14 with 2-4-7-9 with 4-5-8-9, $16.
I like it. If 3 Technique wins the Dirt Mile, this show might go viral, and I wouldn't be happier. That would be awesome. I'll go ahead and read my ticket. Same in the first race, 2-9 with 1-3 with 3-4-8, 9-10 with 9-10-12. That's a $30 ticket. Going the same as Ryan with Torpedo Anna and Awesome Result, the Japanese. Then I've got the 2 Invaders in the Classic. In the sprint, I went 5 deep because that race just gave me such a headache. I don't know what the hell is going to happen in there. And then I've got the top 3 that I had in the mile with the 9, 10, and 12. Pretty reasonable ticket, but I think you maybe need to spread a little bit because it can be kind of chalky early on Saturday. So try to get some prices. Certainly, maybe with the 5-3 Technique, we'll have to see. But anyways, that is gonna wrap things up for us. That is gonna wrap it up. I'll make sure I throw this in real quick before we go. Make sure you sign up for our Breeders' Cup Power Picks. They are available. They have been available for a while. You can go to our website to do that. Click at the banner at the top, or click on the toolbar. This show has been a little long, so it's getting weary for me. But
check the description.
Yeah, in the description. Yeah, that's just make it easy for them. With that being said, that's going to wrap things up for my co-host Ryan Anderson. This has been your host Noah Meagher, covering the special horizontal bets this weekend for the Breeders' Cup. Make sure you check us out all week, and thanks for tuning in. Take care. PHP out.